A moment ago, or when you were talking about Dewey and science, you had something to say about his view of the importance of the institutionalization of science and the institutionalization of inquiry. And in fact, Dewey, one striking characteristic of Dewey as a philosopher was that he attached very special importance to institutions generally, because he regarded all pursuit of knowledge as really essentially a species activity, an almost biologically based species activity. And he also thought, in the special case of science, that one reason for the great success of science was its institutionalization of criticism. So he had a lot to say about institutions in general and their role in society. Now, his philosophy had a great impact on institutions, didn't it? And in particular, I mentioned right at the beginning of this program, he had a special impact on educational institutions throughout the world, not only in the United States. Can you draw our discussion to a close by just telling us something of what Dewey's impact was on education in his own time and subsequently?
Well, he approached his approach to institutions, as you pointed out, was sort of multi-layered, and he frequently thought that given institutions are frequently justified by certain kinds of, let's say, ideologies, and they're frequently justified by certain assumptions about what humans are, and he thought that a lot of the actual justifications could not actually be warranted. The pictures they give of man are actually pictures of man as they are under those current situations, and not as a picture of what man could be. Secondly, they're frequently in the justification.
You mean the picture of man that certain institutions provide are in a sense circular because they are pictures of man as he is living within those institutions.
Right.
Yes.
Secondly, that a lot of people believe that you can only justify claims for institutional arrangements by actually seeing whether or not these things ultimately rest on sort of value questions, and one has to prove that these particular value judgments are ultimate, and etc. He tries to, well, this is part of his general theory of ethics, in which he wants to show the continuity between justification and ethics and justification and morals. He was always against the view that there was a dualism between fact and value. And then the role of the philosopher is to criticize some of these particular kinds of doctrines, and secondly, try to have something to say about the concrete institutional arrangements that were made at that time. And so what he does in this book, a number of his books, is take for granted...
Which book? You haven't named
Democracy and Education.
Yep.
And previous writings, that's the classic, is to take for granted that a theory of education should be contextually relevant, that though there are invariant features of human life, there's no unique best way of organizing them, and the problem is to rationally discuss what institutional requirements are necessary under these specific conditions. Now, so part of the criticism of traditional philosophies of education was that they're frequently justified on dubious psychological assumptions, they're frequently justified on dubious meta-ethical things of how things could be justified, and he then shows, at least to his particular kind of satisfaction, that those are previously used to justify certain claims about education. Also, they're based on dubious psychological theories about effort, about emotion, about discipline, and doing those, he introduces his own positive theories as to how discipline comes from being involved in the activity rather than necessarily the reverse.
He was a pioneer opponent, wasn't he, of the old-fashioned idea of education that saw it as something imposed on the child by discipline, by almost force majeure from without, and saw the essence of education as being something that had to go along with the growth and development of the child, had to be from within, had to have the child's interests and energies, so to speak, flowing with it and working for it.
Right.
Thank you very much, Professor Morgenbesser.